Those simple 5 steps are what have been found in a laboratory to take us from that time when our minds are racing, when we're anxious and worried and concerned about life, and enabled people to actually experience a greater sense of peace. Stress hormones in their blood drop. Their heart rate starts to slow down. And so all these things that we've heard about for many years, we realize now that scientifically can make a difference in our lives. And so isn't that the most important thing that we can take with us today? That on Mother's Day, we can think about how we can create those qualities within ourselves to not only nurture and encourage others, but also to nurture and encourage ourselves. That we would be that person that sees the best in everyone. That we would be that person that's the first to forgive. That we would be that person to love and encourage and support others and ourselves when we most need it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So I wanted to end with a story about my daughter. And as parents, you can recognize that we make a lot of decisions for our children, and we always do it thinking that we know best. And we make decisions in our children's lives that will affect them for many years to come. And when my daughter was going into high school, I made the decision that I was going to move her to an all-girls Catholic school. I actually did think this was the best decision for her. And she told me that I was the worst mother in the world. But I felt so strongly about this decision that it was the right thing to do. And in spite of her just being completely angry at me, I did this to her. And one thing, we're not Catholic. I didn't think about this. Maybe I should have. I really didn't understand that the girls that she was going to high school with were mostly girls that were Catholic, that had grown up in the same church, that had gone to elementary and middle school together. And so there was a lot of girls in the school that had already formed long-term friendships. And my daughter became like an outsider. And high school being as brutal as it is, she really struggled with that. It was very difficult for her. And there's one specific incident that comes to mind when one day they had finally agreed that they were going to allow her to go with them to go skating on a Saturday afternoon. And she was ecstatic. Fixed her hair, put on her best clothes, got ready early, walked down into the kitchen, and she was standing there waiting anxiously. She just couldn't wait that she was going to get to finally go skating with these girls. And they never came to get her. And she just stood in the kitchen, waiting. And finally, she started to cry. And as a mother, I felt like I had caused her this pain. And my heart was broken. And there was nothing I could do to take it away. And so I felt this guilt that I had caused my daughter to feel such great pain and suffering of having felt so left out. And that was 12 years ago. And a while ago, I brought it up to my daughter and wanted to apologize to her for having caused her this great pain. And she said, "Mom, it didn't matter. In fact," she said, "it was great that I went through that. Because there is one thing that I learned from that experience. I never want to be the person that causes someone to feel that pain. And she turned out beautifully. She is a great friend to a great many people, and she has a great many of friends that care deeply for her because she is such a great friend first. And so for me, that was just an example that as parents, when we feel like we do our best, even when there are painful things that happen in our children's life, or even as a child, as we might have experienced terrible pains and suffering, that no matter what it is, we have an opportunity to transform that experience into something for good. And so that is the opportunity we all have today, is no matter what has happened to us, whether we had good moms or bad moms, whether we were good to our children or not good to our children, whatever has happened, each of us has the opportunity to transform our lives into being good for ourselves and good for others. And so let's take those thoughts into meditation, and we'll practice this thing called heart lock-in.